Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a different video today. As you can see here, this is not a fountain pen. This is a Buc-ee's bag. Recently, I headed down to the Huntsville Pen Club. They had kind of like a pen trading, almost a mini pen show type vibe meetup. And on my way from Nashville, I passed by a Buc-ee's. And of course, I was going to stop and get gas and get something to eat. But when I was in there, I thought, I wonder what kind of stationery items I could find at a Buc-ee's. So I went through the store and picked up almost everything. There's a couple items I'll talk about later in the video that I didn't purchase, but let's take a look at what I found stationery related at a Buc-ee's. And I also have the receipt so I can talk through how much these items cost as well. To start out, we have a pack of Bic Intensity permanent markers. That's, you kind of think Buc-ee's gas station, kind of appropriate. I found the classic, in the multi-pin fashion, the Bic 4-person original multi-pin. The one Buc-ee's branded pin item, and I kind of thought there'd be more, but this is for ages 6+, and it is the just Buc-ee's pin with a pin topper. You can see retail $2.99 on that one. I found, in terms of paper, there were 4 total options. There was this, the wide rule, one subject composition book. And it'll be interesting to see how this paper is. This is actually, it says it's made in Chattanooga, Tennessee. So that's kind of interesting. They had, that I did not purchase, also a small pack of like yellow miniature legal pad, like Steno pad size. Did not purchase those. And in terms of pins that I did not purchase, they had a 2-pack of Bic crystals, the most stereotypical Bic pin. And then they had like a 10 or 12 pack of like the kind of gray Bic pens, but Bic seems to rule the writing items. And then in their kind of camping EDC type area, they also had a $40 multi-tool pen that was a ballpoint and had a couple of refills, but I didn't feel the need to pick that up for this purpose. I thought I could mention it, and I'll see if I can find a link online to what it was and throw it down into the description. But in terms of Buc-ee's related paper, and just to preface this, most all of these items were in like the kids section of Buc-ee's, except for it's either kids or like the hardware section of, where you had this was near motor oil and masking tape and a power strip, that kind of area of the Buc-ee's. But this is the Buc-ee's is my type, and it's like a little divided notebook that has little dividers in here for your adventures, your creativity. So this is an interesting take from Buc-ee's to have almost like a guided journal of sorts. So that's kind of neat. The imagination is my type for your imagination, and then for your reflections. And alongside this, they did have a bright pink and then kind of a tealish, just general wide ruled lined type journal. I didn't pick one of those up either because I didn't want to use like a page of it and have it sitting. This I thought I might get some interesting use for, be able to pass it along, remove the one page to, younger friends or kids of my friends who are into writing, that this might be more age appropriate for. Alongside these, there was also that I did not end up purchasing some scented markers because I'm not the best with scents, especially probably the scents that are going to come in a multi-pack of markers from Buc-ee's. And then also I think like a glittery gel pen pack, but which also happened to be scented. But let's take a look. Let's open these up and just kind of do a writing sample and see what this paper is like. And I'll go in and throw some fountain pens and other pens on this just to see how it performs, because yes, it's not necessarily age appropriate, but who cares what age it's for? If it's decent paper, it's something that's a little bit of fun, there's no harm in that. So we'll start out with the Buc-ee's ballpoint here with this little topper. That it's one of those packages you almost need scissors to get into because the cardboard is so stiff. And I did not anticipate this to fight me this much. There we go. Okay, so we can get our Buc-ee's pin out. Let me just throw this packaging down to the side so it's not in the way. Okay, so the topper is stuck on the pin, so that's going to make for interesting writing because that's really back heavy. Like, it's very awkward to hold, but I mean, am I missing? Okay, I was missing. That just doesn't seem right, but I have a feeling most people are probably not going to pull that off because then what do you do with it if it's not on there? Because it's not an eraser. It's just a little emblem. So let's go ahead and leave it on like most people might and see what kind of writing we get out of the Buc-ee's ballpoint. And I'll hold this over. I guess I should center that back up. You can see it's just a basic kind of branded pin with the Buc-ee's logo. And if you're not familiar with Buc-ee's, it's a Texas-based gas station that's more than a gas station. You know, they have like 75 or more pumps, and then the inside is almost a full restaurant and gift shop and shopping center. Like they have fresh bakery. It's something to experience. It can be very crowded, it can be very crazy, but if you're passing one on a road trip, at least give it a shot, because if nothing else, they have some of the cleanest restrooms on a road trip, good food, good drink selection to kind of get a quick stop, and also normally less expensive gasoline. So it's kind of a good one-stop shop, especially if you have multiple people, because everybody can kind of get their own thing, you know, from fresh made barbecue down to other. But let's get on to some writing here. So we'll do the, you know, kind of a slow start. Man, I have not written with a really bad ballpoint pen in quite some time, and I remember why I'm not the biggest fan of this style ballpoint pen. When you use gel pens or roller balls or fountain pens, so often you forget how much you have to push down on some of these ballpoints. So you can see this is not very good writing. It's what you'd expect from a kind of cheap ballpoint pen. It's, you know, you really have to kind of push down to get a dark color. So for my writing, I'd have to really push down. But, you know, this is meant for kids, where it's probably meant for more need something to do on the road trip. Let's get you some paper and a pen so you can draw or write or scribble. But let's move on to the Bic 4-color. And I find this interesting because I have all these nice Japanese multi-pens now. And this is kind of the OG. I had one of these when I was in elementary school, I remember, and I haven't used one probably since then. And when I was getting one of the multi-pens, I was like, man, I should track one of these down. And now I have one to do a good comparison. And just to mention how much this, let's see, the Bic 4-color multi-pen was $2.97. So if you think about getting 4 pens for that, it's better value than getting your one Buc-ee's pen. But let's do some writing here. We'll start with the blue. And this actually writes better. So even, I guess, with the name brand cheap ballpoint pen versus the made in China, non-branded, more of a novelty pen. And you can even see it. I'll hold the writing up closer to after to show, but it writes better out of the gate. It didn't even have a really as slow of a start. Do the black. So that's a little bit of a slow start. Do the green. That one's also kind of a slow start. And then last but not least, the red. So it, you know, I'm kind of glad to have one of these now, just to have in along the multi-pens to kind of show, you know, where you might start and where you could end up and how you could get a better multi-pen, because this is not the best pen. And this is probably what most people think of. If you hear the word multi-pen, they probably had one of these, you know, just in school or when they're a kid, and they kind of had their purpose, but I still would consider this more of a novelty than it was a good writing experience. But it's moving on to the last pens that I purchased, the Bic Intensity. And, this, I guess, is the Bic version of a Sharpie. So we'll see how it handles on these, how this paper handles this. And then I'll grab, like I said, some other pens and just do some quick writing on here. And then we'll also test the paper in the composition book as well to see if it's one of those kind of recycled papers where it's actually pretty good. Because that's one thing I was actually talking to somebody about this at the pen meetup. They needed a bunch of legal pads, and they'd run into, every so often, they'd find the cheap legal pads that were great. And then they went and bought more and they were terrible. And, that's always a crapshoot with some of these. So, I guess I should Bic Intensity. And yep, so definitely very Sharpie-like in how it goes through. And it even went down through to the level where it's showing on the next sheet. So, you're probably not going to be writing with this type of marker for this type of paper, but this is just a basic fine point. So permanent marker, probably not something you'd be giving to a kid to use in this anyway. Maybe not. Who knows? So let's switch over and we'll test just this real quick with these pens, and then I'll grab a couple of just fountain pens and do a quick writing, and we can see if there's bleed through or whatnot. I'll just do like 2 colors in this. I'll do the blue and the black. Man, this is like feeling like being back in school with wide ruled notebook paper, because these are perforated pages where you could rip it out to turn in your assignment. And I don't know if the microphone is picking that up, but you can hear the tip movement on this as I write. It's clicking. And that, man, I don't see that on any of my nicer multi pens, or pretty much any of my pens, because I'm not really using that kind of mechanism. But that's just, I remember now why I was not the biggest fan of those. Do the Buc-ees pen. And you can see, starting to write that, this already has started to, in that little bit of time, man, this is just not nice to write with. And I know that might just be me and how I write, and then okay. So in terms of those, as you'd expect, the ballpoint's not going to show through. Now let's get some fountain pens and some other pens and just kind of see what this paper does. Okay, so these are the first 3 I grabbed, and depending on when this video comes out, you might not have seen this one yet. So if you haven't seen this one, this is the Matthew Martin OG1 that I've filmed a video, but depending on when I get these edited and what order, that might not be released until after this one. So if not, go check out that video. And if you've already seen that one, thanks for watching this one as well. This is the Zinto 0.5 millimeter. And then this is the 0.38 version. And then we'll do some testing with this. And this is a Yovo 6 fine nib with Twisby forest green in it. Okay, and then let me see what else I have handy here, because I wasn't thinking of grabbing stuff beforehand like I should have. There we go. I've got my 92 Pilot 92, and this has Sailor Tea Time in it. Okay. And let me grab... Here we go. This is a Preppy with a 0.3 with the blue cartridge that I used in my Preppy video. Let me see. Do I have the other multi-pin handy? I don't, but this might be a better thing because we already have the Uniball. This is an Oto 0.5 millimeter roller ball, just so we have a roller ball on here. Okay, so let's see how these show through, and then that'll probably give a good gauge. So actually, I mean, the fountain pen inks, they do show through pretty much where it would be single side use paper. They're not really feathering out much. Now I'm going to go in and just pull this sheet out of here, and I'll hold it over to the side camera. There is some feathering there. Let's see. So if you look like on the T and the TWSBI, as it on the downstroke, it's got a little bit of feathering, but it's not terrible. So if you're using this as a single side sheet of paper, it would be usable. The roller ball is going to be fine. It's got the slightest little semblance of showing through, and that just kind of shows the fine liner as well. So, okay, I had to pop in here. As I was editing, I realized I never wrote with the fountain pens and the other pins on the actual Buc-ee's paper. So I just wanted to pop this in and show both sides. You can see the Preppy, the Uniball, the Matthew Martin, and the Pilot Custom 92. There's a slight touch of feathering on the fountain pen inks, which you kind of expect from paper like this. And then in terms of the backside and show through, the fountain pen ink showed through about the same as the composition book. The roller ball showed through slightly less. So overall, it's, if you had to make do, it would work. But especially for a kid's focused notebook that they're not going to be writing with inks like this, it's probably not going to be much of a concern. But I wanted to add that in here before I finish up the video. I wouldn't necessarily consider Buc-ee's a stationary shopping location, but if you need something in a pinch, at least it was good to see they still have some pins and basic items that you could pick up from a Buc-ee's. And I'm sure that there's many other gas stations and convenient type stops like that where you could pick things up as well. And just to kind of mention the prices on some of these other things, let's see, the Buc-ee 5-tab spiral journal, this was actually $10. The Bic marker, so that's these liners, it was $1.97 for the 2-pack. The logo topper pen was $2.99. And then the 4-color pen, $2.97. And the composition book was a whopping 97 cents. So, like I said, not top of the line, but I thought it would be a neat just to kind of go through and see what was there, because you never know with a store like that has so many items. They could have had a cool like Buc-ee's branded rollerball or something like that you might not anticipate, but didn't find anything like that. But it was a fun experiment nonetheless. So I appreciate you taking this time to watch this and see, if you pass through a Buc-ee's, go for the food, go for the drink. Don't necessarily go for the stationery or writing items, but if you are looking for something like a good, flashback to the past of your first multi-pen, you could pick up something like that there. Or if you have kids or somebody who really likes Buc-ee's, this would be a cool thing, if nothing else, just to have in their pen cup on their desk. So if you're new to the channel, thanks for watching. Check out some of the other videos, especially about that Matthew Martin OG1. If it comes out after this one, or if it's already been out, be sure you take a look at that because it's a really cool pen. And until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.